Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Gemini energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Gemini, the bottom row a more worldly shadowy Gemini. We all have our dualistic nature of free will, which is what Gemini energy talks about. It's about our truth, what we want to manifest. It's air sign energy of the mind. Some people might be struggling within themselves, so they could be battling within themselves. The bottom row can kind of represent our comfort zone, and we can all have fear of stepping outside of our comfort zone and doing something different. We have to kind of be bold and brave and probably have to work through some fears, or maybe it involves moving away from habits or jobs or friendships. So some people could be battling within themselves. Other people have done the battle, and some people move forward in life a little differently, and some people didn't, and they kind of stayed in their comfort zone. And sometimes it's just thinking about, is that a good idea, is that not a good idea, and we have to take these things into consideration. The bottom row can kind of represent some of our fears and insecurities that could stop us from moving forward, and that takes work and effort to work through those, and some people might just decide, forget it, and they're just going to keep doing what they've been doing, and they might keep doing it forever, or until, if there's something going on that makes them feel, I don't know, like it's not just and fair or not aligned with their truth, then they might revisit it to think about it, but we're all at different places in our life. Some people are ready to move forward and face their fears, and they've worked through some issues within themselves, and in a given time, some other people haven't. Okay, so we all tap into Gemini energy, and we're dealing with other people in their Gemini energy. Could this be something that affects people more who are a Gemini sun, moon, or rising sign, or have significant Gemini placements? Sure, but we all have our dualistic nature, so we could all be kind of dealing with some of these situations. So the reason for the bottom rows reading is the family room, and that to me kind of represents behind closed doors and can kind of represent the mind. And we have the gift, and then we have two cards not showing themselves. Then we have the King of Swords, the Poverty card, the House card, and the main male. So down here, we only have masculine cards, and the way I read tarot is the masculine figures can represent us kind of being more impacted by our more worldly nature. The feminine figures can talk about how we think and feel, and in the top row, we have the bad health, where emotionally someone is trying to get someone who's more in their worldly nature maybe more balanced, because the reason for the top row's reading is the unexpected income, and I view that as the Six of Pentacles, which the sixes can talk about balance. For the first 30, 50 years of our life, we can all be pretty kind of tipped in favor of our more worldly nature, because there's all these things of the world that we want to go invest in and manifest. And Gemini also is represented by the Lover's card and the Magician card. And the Magician is Gemini and Virgo. Virgo's earth sign energy, which can kind of be, again, about our truth and our long-term goals. And as a human being in the world, there are things that we would like to indulge in or invest in or manifest. And you could just know some people that are really still more caught up in the world, making their life about the world, possibly making it more about themselves, maybe haven't learned in the courthouse and the bad health, haven't learned to love themselves and kind of be a loving, nurturing, supportive person to themselves emotionally. And so then it can be more considered codependent energy, where they're looking to get in a relationship with someone else to play that role in their life, but they don't want to maybe they want to maybe keep operating from their ego nature, whatever that could be, male or female. If they're immature, they want someone to be in a relationship with them and love them even with them being immature. If they're prideful, if they're defensive, I kind of view the thoughts card as the King of Swords. That can be a person's more self-protective, defensive nature. The poverty card could be people who kind of have a lack mentality. Again, maybe haven't put in some work and effort within themselves. The house card is like the Four of Wands, which is Aries energy about the self. Haven't really learned how to invest in themselves, to maybe get out of their head and kind of get more balance within themselves, to love themselves. The Four of Wands of the house card, I also view that as kind of firing on all four cylinders. We do have our worldly nature, and we have these things of the world that drive and motivate us, and that we want to invest in the world. But we also have our creative, inspired, intuitive, loving nature. And some people did do this work within themselves, and that's how they move forward. They could have been in more codependent energy, hadn't learned to love and believe in themselves. They then could have gotten in relationships with other people who were happy they were in that energy because they were in some energy of their own. And it worked, and we can get in those jobs, friendships, and relationships just like when we were young and we were 15, 18, 21, 25, and we were at where we were at, and we thought the way we thought, and we viewed life the way we viewed it, and we wanted to go indulge in what we wanted to go indulge in and make our life about, and we hung out with people that were kind of on the same page to some degree. But at every stage of life that we go through, our high vibe energy, it's kind of like listening to our intuition. When our intuition tells us it's kind of time to move forward, you've kind of done this stage of life long enough. There was ample opportunity for you to kind of get clear about what your truth is and your truth isn't. And that's part of the reason, we come in contact with all these different people in the world to kind of help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. And the Five of Pentacles is Taurus energy, which is kind of our philosophy of life and all these things. What are my dreams? What motivates and inspires me? What do I think is just and fair? Who and what do I want to invest my time, energy, and effort into? What do I find emotionally fulfilling? What do I not? What do I feel is me kind of more indulging me in my more immature, prideful, lustful, greedy nature? What are the things that aren't that? It's just learning all these things to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. And when we go through a phase of life, kind of listening to our intuition, when our intuition tells us, we might have completed that phase of life, kind of learned everything we needed to learn there. It's time to move on. The Five of Pentacles moves away from the Four of Pentacles. We had this way of living life and viewing life, and in our King of Swords energy of our own Libra energy, that's how we lived life, that's how we viewed life. We thought that was just and fair. But over time, again, we could be ready to move forward, because that is kind of the process of life, right? The Six of Pentacles can be like, I went through this stage of life, and the Six of Pentacles, like the Five of Pentacles, is Taurus energy. I did think and feel this way and was at that age or stage of life, but now my intuition is kind of telling me if I keep staying at that phase of life, I might do it more out of codependency or fear and being more codependent, and kind of maybe letting my mind run my life instead of kind of being inspired. Aries is fire sign energy, so kind of inspired within myself to see what is aligned more with my truth, see what isn't more aligned with my truth, and heal. And the bad health I view as the Four of Swords, which is also Libra energy. That I could have lived my life a certain way, and it was just and fair in a way for me to live my life that way, because that's where I was at, right? But then if we keep moving forward in it that way, it kind of wears maybe on our self-esteem, kind of behind the scenes, because we could know we keep moving forward in a certain way of life because we're fearful of being more independent, and that's high vibe energy. Unlike trees or animals, right? They don't have free will. Like a tree is just conditioned to try to grow to its full potential. We as human beings could grow to our full potential, but we have free will and we can keep repeating an old pattern forever. Never face our fears. Shadowy energy can be, I don't want to see the truth. There might be some things I should let go of, ways of acting, ways of behaving, ways of thinking, ways of feeling, ways of viewing life, whatever, and friendships and relationships that really aren't maybe good for me, aren't maybe really aligned with my truth, but I could stay in something, harnessing a more worldly, shadowy Libra energy of, well, this makes logical, practical sense, and I could just keep doing this. But it's kind of knowing, again, in free will, if I do this and I choose this, I don't choose the other things. And if I take this action versus that action, and that there's consequences for these different actions. And sometimes we can have people in our life that we want them to get more balance within themselves and their Libra energy. And, we could decide to try to offer them love and encouragement. But we can do that for a really long time. When are they ever going to, within themselves, start to love and believe in themselves or work through their own fears and insecurities? And sometimes we kind of realize that this is their idea of the dream life. I want to maybe even hide. I don't want to put in work and effort to change. The fives can talk about change. I don't want to heal. I don't want to get more balanced within myself. I like a more imbalanced relationship. I've been waiting for someone like you to come in my life, be a really loving, nurturing person who keeps trying to change me, but I have no interest in changing. And I like having someone in my life who's very nurturing and attentive to me. And basically over time, you kind of realize that, your dreams aren't going to come into reality because this is their idea of the dream life and relationship dynamic, whether it's a friend or romantic interest. They have no interest in moving forward in life any differently. If they like to live more from their mind than their heart, that's how they want to keep doing it. If they like to be more in a more shadowy Taurus relationship, can be a more transactional type relationship, maybe not a more deep, meaningful relationship. That's how they want to do life. If they want to be in a relationship and the Four of Wands can be coming together with others, I want to be in a relationship, but I want to keep operating from my ego. And some people could be kind of full of themselves, whether they're male or female. They want to be in relationships and they think they could be God's gift. And anybody should want to be in a relationship and take care of them. And maybe indulge them. And some people don't. High vibe energy would be high vibe Libra, high vibe Taurus, where people hold themselves accountable for their actions and they heal and they are balanced and they do treat other people the way they like to be treated. And it is, if it's a romantic relationship, it's based on truth and love. And that is where we are supposed to treat other people the way we like to be treated. And it is about equal give and take. It's not where it's more about one person and their wants and their way. If we're working together from love, we should be working together for that common goal. And that means everybody could have some things that they would like to invest in or indulge in or ways of being. But if they love the people and want to work together with them to bring this common goal into reality, even if it's a workplace, everybody has to be willing to kind of detach from some of these more, well, I kind of want to be indulged, or I kind of like to indulge myself, and I kind of think it should be more about me, and I think people should keep indulging me in some way, and people shouldn't require more of me. I don't want to change. I don't want to be more inspired to do more equal give and take, or be more just or fair, or put in more work and effort. And there can come a time where people, again, can have a hard time calling judgment on some people. But when something keeps happening like over and over again, and maybe we could kind of look at the Six of Pentacles as that way, kind of keeps happening over and over, and nothing changes. Well, eventually people can't keep staying in denial of the truth. If people aren't kind of motivated within themselves, in their own Taurus energy, to put in work and effort, and high vibe Taurus would be to kind of more walk the talk and hold yourself accountable. And there's some people in the world who don't want to do that. Maybe like to play the poor, pitiful me, or victim or something, And they're looking for people who will indulge them in that way of being. So, some people have already called judgment on some people like that in their life. For the shadowy people in your life that you could have known or have dealt with before, you might not have realized that, and they didn't realize about you, they could have harnessed these energies in a more worldly, shadowy way. You could have been at whatever stage of life you were at and looking to work together with people. But you could have harnessed these energies in a more high vibe way, and they didn't know that about you. The Concern card, which I've also been viewing as the King of Swords lately, and the Imprisonment card. Can we all want some of these things of the world? Can we all kind of do what seems logical and practical? Can we all want to be in friendship and relationship with people? Yes. But that doesn't maybe imprison you and manipulate you to the degree it might manipulate other people. And for some people, it could really manipulate them. They could be very codependent on wanting to be in a relationship just to feel more balanced. Or shadowy Taurus and Libra can be that people, they feel it says something about their worth or value. And so it's more about the ego and the image of it. And that can be more why they want to be in friendships or relationships. And other people want to be in friendships and relationships too, but it doesn't just manipulate them to the way it manipulates other people. Also, we could have gotten in friendships and relationships with people, and we could be looking to get in a friendship or relationship with someone, and we get in that friendship or relationship, and maybe, we could both help each other be loving and encouraging and supportive people to each other, to help each other through a phase of life. It's just that some people kind of, when you're in kind of loving and encouraging and supportive environments, some people start to look at some of the things that kind of manipulate them. I've been carrying around some baggage for a while, and I know it kind of affects me, and they make the decision to kind of work through those things. Why do I have a lack mentality? Why am I maybe a more codependent energy? Why do I have more fear or insecurity, or kind of let my ego nature or something run my life? And they kind of do that work within themselves in the relationship, and they kind of come out on the other side, and they're kind of more inspired within themselves, internally and maybe emotionally, to kind of want, when you free yourself of some things that used to manipulate you, past pain and heartbreak, being sad about other things that could have went on in your life, or just work through some of your own lack mentality. Why don't I love and believe in myself? And you love and believe in yourself and you get more balance within yourself, well, then you're not in the same energy that you were at one time. You're not the same person. You've changed. And then you could be more inspired within yourself to kind of want to move forward in life a little differently. And you can still be in friendship and relationship with people, but you're hoping, again, other people will be inspired within themselves to do some of the work, to work through some of those things that could manipulate them. And some of those people could be like, no, I'm good. You can go. Because we all like to be in relationships with people who are kind of on the same page as us. We live life a certain way. We view life a certain way. We could have some of these issues in common. If other people kind of work through some of those issues, those things don't manipulate them the way it used to, then you're kind of not on the same page anymore. And then some other people are like, I'm good. I still live life and view life this way. This is how I want to keep doing it. That's kind of my truth. And then we're not on the same page as some people. So that can be difficult, and kind of once you've been illuminated to the truth, if you expanded your perception of how you view yourself and how you view the world, what you believe is possible, being a little more inspired within yourself to believe in yourself, well, how do you go back to not being that, And if there was things that you had maybe been investing time, energy, and effort into that weren't good for you, and you kind of saw the truth of it, if I want my dreams to come into reality, I got to detach from some of those habits and patterns. And then there can be people in our life that, they want to keep doing that, and they maybe don't want to do some other things. And so then you're kind of not on the same page as them. And it's to kind of see the truth of it. And, I might need to go find some different people who have some different habits or patterns and vices, because I don't want to keep living my life like that. It's not moving my life forward in a more balanced way. I do feel like I am maybe indulging my more immature or self-indulgent or codependent nature, and the other people that I could have been hanging out with, they're still fine with it. And so then we're kind of not on the same page. And for other people that you're dealing with that are more shadowy, they are much more maybe about themselves, much more motivated and inspired by the world, much more view relationships as more transactional, don't want to do love. You can get hurt doing love. They'd have to heal to do love. They'd have to deal with the truth of some things, and they might not want to deal with the truth of some things. And some, it's like, I don't think I need to do love. If some people in their free will decide I like living more from my mind than my heart, or I do like kind of indulging myself or being more about myself. That's my truth. It's like, okay, they're going to go try to find other people who are more on that same page, or willing, in a more shadowy Taurus type relationship, indulge them in some of those poor behaviors or ways of being. That's their idea of the dream life or dream relationship. And if they can't find someone to indulge them, they could go try to find someone that they'd be willing to indulge, because that can be like a shadowy Taurus type of relationship of how they view relationships, which is like kind of Taurus and Gemini, because Gemini is about the Lover's card. Some people do have this view of life. It's a very worldly view of life, and about, it's about being in relationships for more of these reasons of the world. That's rules of the game, is how they could view it. That's their playbook. That's their truth. It is about whoever has more of these things of the world is the person who should be more indulged. Whoever wants more of whatever someone else wants should be the indulged person. And for people who really don't want to do a more balanced or kind of more loving or deep, meaningful relationship, that could definitely be how they view life. If I have more of the things that people want in the world, then they should make their life more about me. And if they can't find someone willing to do that, then, well, then I need to go find someone and I will indulge them. And that's just their free will of their, like, Gemini and Libra energy and Taurus energy of how they view relationships. It's just that other people don't view relationships that way. And they could not understand that, just like we can't relate to their way of thinking. And they cannot understand maybe why other people don't stay in certain job, friendships, or relationships when it could have status or image or look like you've got these things in the world that people would think you have justice in the world. Or you have someone who wants to be in a relationship with you. High vibe people don't want to just be in a relationship to be in a relationship. Don't want to be in a relationship just for more of these things of the world. Because their truth is they're more motivated and inspired by love. And they want a more balanced relationship. Yes, I want some of these things of the world just like everybody else. But I'm not willing to compromise truth and love to have those things, and other people are. Those things are sacrificable. And other people are like, I'm not willing to sacrifice that. You know, it's kind of like shadowy energy. The big picture is represented by the devil. Make your things about these things of the world. You'll be happy. And some people bought into it hook, line, and sinker. You know, that is their truth. That's why they want to be in relationships, want to stay in relationships, want to make the reason for being in the relationship. Don't want to do love. They exchange that truth and that foundation in their free will to make their life more about themselves or these things of the world. And other people made the opposite choice. But we can get in these more mismatched relationships and everybody can kind of realize, yeah, this isn't my truth. Can shadowy people kind of like being in relationships with just and fair and loving and encouraging people? Yeah, but the just and fair and loving and encouraging people might require them to maintain more balance within themselves, not indulge themselves in their more immature way or prideful way or stubborn way or being more about themselves way, whatever it is kind of their shadow nature. And then they kind of get tired of kind of trying to maintain that because they really could like to be in more imbalanced relationships. And then they want to go be in a relationship with someone who's kind of more tipped in favor of being more about those things or living their life that way like they are. And, if, kind of like, you can stay in friendships and relationships with people where it's mismatched for a long time, but eventually you get down to that core foundational truth. Are you driven and motivated to be in this more from love, or is it more of these other reasons? And that's when people realize that their truth is different. And, high vibe people don't give up on their dreams. They just see their dreams can't come into reality with those people. And they take the lesson they were meant to learn from that life experience as to love and believe in themselves, give themselves the things that they wish other people would have given them. Kind of viewing that, I kind of view Leo energy that way. We're either kind of indulging our more shadowy Leo nature of our ego, or in high vibe energy, Leo, we're being loving and encouraging and supportive to ourselves and giving ourselves the things that we wish other people would have given us, to maintain balance within ourselves, to take the lesson we learn from this life experience and take that with us as we move forward. No longer in denial of the truth, knowing that some people like being more immature, bossy, manipulative, more about themselves, more about ego and image, or whatever other shadowy nature they have. And that's their free will, but it's not your truth. So, shadowy people can be where they try to create this illusion. Oh no, I've healed and grown and matured myself too. But in some ways they could have. But if they still have that core foundational truth that not to emotionally invest in healing and growing and kind of maturing themselves, and they're still kind of more about themselves for these things of the world, they're going to go out and get in another relationship. And if they get in a relationship that's a more mismatched relationship again, the same thing's probably going to play out. Again, can people view them as seeming to come across, and in a lot of ways, they could seem stable and abundant and balanced within themselves? Yeah, so people will get in a relationship with them. Can they be kind of loving and nurturing to other people? Yeah, that's why people could get in a relationship and stay in a relationship with them for quite a long time. But eventually, over time, the truth has a way of coming out. And high vibe people listen more to their intuition, and they do kind of keep growing and maturing themselves. And that's when they realize the other people want to keep repeating this certain pattern. They don't ever maybe get inspired within themselves to become independent of a certain type of relationship dynamic they like, or being in it more for these reasons of the world. And they could be confused how other people aren't more driven and motivated to stay in relationships for those reasons, because they are. But they don't want to change. They maybe just don't even look at life that there is any higher truth or justice to aspire to. And also might not want to see some of these truths about themselves or things that manipulate them. So they could think other people are just creating an illusion, because that's kind of what they do. But the high vibe people aren't creating an illusion, because if that's how people think, everybody's just creating an illusion. Everybody's more about themselves. Everybody wants to be in relationships for these reasons. Other people could try to use love to try to manipulate people. Oh, I'm not falling for that. I don't believe in love. I think people just use that to try to emotionally manipulate people. Well, I'm going to live more from my mind than my heart. And if that's not their truth, they can go be in a relationship with someone else. I don't care. Because they could view other people who are loving as just trying to manipulate them. And so they're not going to do that. And they also could just think that's just what you use to try to manipulate people. And and they just think everybody's creating an illusion. They could see you moving forward, that maybe even feel like judgment has went in your favor, that you could have went through, even with them, some difficult and challenging times. And if people were being deceptive and kind of manipulative and more about themselves, you weren't seeing the truth of it. You were being loving and nurturing and encouraging. And as time went by, you're trying to move things forward. And that's when they can kind of haven't been illuminated to the truth to work through these issues within themselves, be more just and fair and authentic and loving in the relationship, and they can decide to try to do these things to manipulate you. Being bossy, being cold, being hurtful, being unkind, paying attention to other people, or investing their time, energy, and effort into other people, than doing more equal give and take with you, thinking you're just creating an illusion. They could know they're more codependent on being in a relationship and having a certain status and image in the world, and people and family and friends in their life that they're more codependent on, and they think you're just creating an illusion. So they think you don't love and believe in yourself, and you won't stand up for yourself, just like they don't love and believe in themselves and stand up for themselves. So they try these manipulative things to hurt you, to make you continue to keep being manipulated. And that's when some people were like, this is not just and fair. And this is not my truth, and I don't think they are who they say they are, and I think they are being shadowy and deceptive and manipulative and prideful and stubborn or immature and egotistical and whatever, and you decided to stand up for yourself, deal with the truth of it, and heal. But again, they could think you're just creating an illusion. But you knew there's always going to be other shadowy people in the world. And if you kind of don't do this work within yourself to deal with the truth of it, there you could get in another friendship or relationship or workplace like that. And so you did this work within yourself and saw how if you harness these energies in a more worldly, shadowy way, it could make you repeat that pattern again. So you did do the work within yourself to see the truth of it. And what they don't know about you is you aren't the same person you were before. You really did hold yourself accountable and them, and you've healed. And you don't feel left out in the cold anymore. You might have went through a period of feeling left out in the cold, but as you do this work within yourself, internally, you get more and more clear about your truth, and as they keep taking action in their life, it helps you work through the emotional confusion and the illusion to see that they're not who you thought they were. And you realize you harness your Gemini, your Libra, your Aries, your Taurus. You harness all these energies differently. And seeing the truth of it got you out of something that wasn't aligned with your truth. You see that now. And you don't have an interest of being in a friendship or relationship with those people anymore because they kind of showed you the truth of who they were, even though for a long time you could have wanted to stay in denial of the truth because you were hoping it would work out. But it takes, if it's two people, it takes both people working together, acting with character and integrity and truth and love. Everybody willing to temper their ego. Everybody willing to hold themselves accountable for their actions. Everybody willing to compromise. And they weren't willing to do it. So, what have you transformed? The distant horizon and the occupation. So, the distant horizon kind of makes me feel like, like we had this dream. And so we put work and effort into that dream. And we could have thought, if I put work and effort in from truth and love, and I'm kind of healing and growing and maturing myself, tempering my ego, doing equal give and take with me, well, this will work out like victorious and successfully. That was in your Virgo nature, your truth and your philosophy. And that could be, and in your Taurus energy, and your Gemini, you have this philosophy about life and relationships, and you put in work and effort to try to accomplish that. And that's what high vibe people do. They put in work and effort to make things victorious and successful and just and fair and balanced. But one person, it kind of starts to wear on you. Do you know how to fill your own cup emotionally? Yeah, so you can be someone who can be very loving and nurturing and giving to other people. But, eventually we kind of feel a little left out in the cold and depleted if, and feeling like we're missing these opportunities to work with other people who have more self-insight and have kind of on that same page, and that's their truth, and kind of motivated and inspired by that also to work with you cooperatively in a more just and fair and balanced and authentic and loving way, and kind of realizing the other people, again, that's not their truth. And then it's like, well, I could keep moving forward in it. It probably would have a lot of these things of the world that I want, but I'm going to just have to give myself the things that I wish other people would have given me because these people don't do it. They don't really give to me and aren't nurturing maybe and loving to me and don't do equal give and take with me. And then people work through, why would I stay in a relationship like that? And that's kind of high vibe Virgo. Why don't I love and believe in myself enough to stand up for myself and kind of what I bring to the table, and stand up for my truth of what I think is just and fair, and maybe communicate my truth to some people that I don't think you are just and fair. And I could think you want me to keep indulging you in poor behavior, and I'm done indulging you in poor behavior. And if it's not more just and fair, then I wish you peace. I'm going to go work with people who are more just and fair. And that's when some people, have to think within themselves, am I willing to be more just and fair? I could have had these viewpoints about life or relationships or that I kind of thought were just and fair, but apparently they don't think it's just and fair. Am I willing to hold myself accountable? And am I willing to quit being more codependent, learn to love myself, get more balance within myself, quit looking to other people to always fill my cup? And I don't want to learn how to fill up my own cup. Other people to make me feel more balanced, but I don't want to do work within myself. I don't want to have to change anything. Give up some habits or patterns or ways of living or whatever that would make me more balanced. Quit living more from my mind than my heart. Be inspired to love myself, to believe I deserve more equal give and take. But they have to be inspired to even want that. And the truth is, some people don't want that, and they don't want to do those type of relationships. So the more stubborn, prideful, egotistical, immature, codependent, lack mentality, don't want to put in work and effort to see the truth of some things that manipulate them, odds are they're not going to be changing anytime soon, if ever. And some other people have seen the truth about those people and moved on. Just that the shadowy people try to hide from people that, again, they could be people who just try to trap people in a relationship with them. Can I get this person to make a decision to move forward in this job or a relationship or a marriage even? And if I can get them in it, then I think that even if later I do things that are kind of shadowy, because of the ego or the image or their want for this, or they'll keep putting in a lot of work and effort to make it happen while I kind of get kind of the best of both worlds. I get to be in a relationship with someone who's loving and encouraging, and I at the same time get to be kind of immature. And that's the devil. Does the devil want other demons running around wanting to lick their boots and kiss their ass? No, the devil wants an angel, someone who's more motivated and inspired by love, to help them create this illusion that they're a just and fair and loving person. And people can put in a lot of work and effort to try to make it work. And eventually, those people have the free will to decide, am I going to keep imprisoned in this more for my ego and my image and my want for this or these things of the world? And that's when high vibe people are like, in their Taurus philosophy of life, I believe in a higher truth and justice. I don't think this is just and fair. I might even think some people lied about the truth of what drove and motivated them, and that they maybe never were who I thought they were. And so it was basically like committing fraud in a relationship. But there too, if you're going down the road of life and then some people are drifting slowly off into the ditch or quickly off into the ditch, whatever it might be, then they want you because of the ego or the image or the status or because you married them, that then you're just supposed to indulge them while now they're driving down in the ditch, and you're kind of staying in the bumper guards of life, not to drive your life off into the ditch. And for some people that was how they wanted to do it all along. They just hid it initially about some of these things that manipulated them, and then as time went by and they felt like, oh, now I think we're further along in it, I kind of got them emotionally invested and trapped in it, that, the very reasons they're afraid of being in a relationship are the things that they do in a relationship. And then they quit being who they said they were, and they start acting in these more shadowy ways, hoping people will keep maintaining the illusion about who they are because they want it to work, or the status or the ego or the image of it. And some people are like, I'm not as concerned about what the world thinks of me as I am about living a lie. And I don't want to live a lie. So the world can judge away, and I am willing to leave this and get out of it. And then the people who decided to be shadowy in some way, then they got to figure out, what are they going to say about why someone who's maybe just and fair and loving and encouraging in their life left. So it might be just to not tell the truth. Shadowy energy is ego energy, not being truthful and honest and authentic. I know I'll create some illusion and try to confuse people, and they'll have a hard time kind of believing the truth that maybe I could be this certain type of person that I don't present myself as being. And because they're my family or have been friends for a long time, I think they'll have a hard time, calling judgment on me, that then I think they'll invest in me, and maybe I'll play the victim and I was the one left out in the cold, and those were the people that were this way and that way. And the high vibe people are like, you can say whatever you want, I don't care, I know my truth and I know the truth. And I think vengeance is God's, and God's will take care of it. And if you're someone who's kind of more shadowy or manipulative and deceptive or full of yourself or whatever, I think when you get in a different job, friendship, or relationship, eventually other people will see the truth of it, and I won't be the only one. And eventually the truth comes out. In the meantime, the high vibe people aren't worried about it. They're just moving on, letting the shadowy people do what they do. Let them be manipulated by what they're manipulated by. And that's what they don't realize. High vibe Virgo is you did this work emotionally to heal, to get balance within yourself, holding yourself and other people accountable, and no longer staying in denial of the truth, accepting the truth. And that sets you free. You're able to let go of this and move forward in your life and have a new beginning. Judgment goes in your favor. When we learn the lessons we were meant to learn, which is like the one Pentacles about truth and love, Virgo, our own Virgo nature, goes within to find that truth. So you're less caught up in the world. Don't want to be more where you could be, again, a very loving, nurturing person. You've kind of learned to get more balance within yourself, to stand up for your truth. I can be a very loving, nurturing person, but it has to be just and fair. And I want to be in relationships with other people who are motivated and inspired authentically within themselves from love, not for these other reasons of the world. And you could have people in your life that have had in your life that they're being loving and nurturing to you, just like you're being loving and nurturing to them. Could be letting some other people go in your life. If it was a job, you could be moving forward in a new job. If it was getting out of a relationship, you're getting out of that relationship, doing that work within yourself, getting to know other people. And, when we quit investing more of our time, energy, and effort into the people who show us that is not their truth, it frees us up to get to know other people who are more on that page and invest more of our time, energy, and effort into the people who are motivated to work together with people in that way. And some of the shadowy people could think, oh, I'm sure you still want to be in a relationship with me, or I'm sure, and as long as they think that, they could also think they can go do whatever they want to do. Some of those people don't realize that you could find them a little sick, not healthy, and, in their thinking, logic, and reasoning, and maturity level. And some of those people don't realize that you've seen the truth, because Virgo goes in to see the truth. And they don't know it. So they could keep doing what they're doing, thinking that you're still maybe up in your head and in your ego about them. And it's like, no, I've moved on. They just think you're creating an illusion. And it's like, no, there's no illusion here. I did see the truth about you, and I don't want to work with you anymore, and I don't really want to invest more in the friendship or relationship any more than where it is at right now. And I have kind of come to peace about the situation, and I'm not in my ego about it, or my competitive energy or anything like that. What's coming up for the high vibe people? The Star card. 2 cards not showing themselves, and the reason is because of the 5 of Swords. So the 5 of Swords comes out after the 4 of Swords. You could have had to take some time to get balance within yourself and heal. And we can always physically distance ourselves from people and move away from them, but then emotionally do this work within ourselves to heal from it, learn the lesson we were meant to learn, see that our dream couldn't come into reality with them, not give up our dreams, and take action in our truth, in aligned in our high vibe Aquarius energy of our truth. And by doing that, you could have had mental conflict with some people in your life who you feel harness a more shadowy Aquarius energy, which can be like they think they're the star of the show and everybody else should temper their ego, but never them. Everybody else could maybe have to change, but not them. Or they're just really caught up in the world, and that's the driving factor in their life. And you kind of look at life from a higher perspective and think there's more to life than just indulging in those things or making your life about that. You have a dream, and you're taking action on your dream. And as you're doing that again, you know that when you do that when you detach from harnessing these energies in a more worldly, shadowy way, you're letting go of those people that harness it in a more worldly, shadowy way. The Page of Wands and the Ace of Wands, which just could be in their fire sign nature, they're just more... Oh, the 5 of Swords is Aquarius energy too. That they're just either have mental conflict that they don't want to deal with. They could be immature, could be competitive, could be people who want to win at all costs, really more about themselves. You could have been in more codependent energy and you kind of indulge people in relationships. Maybe in the Page you have that kind of hopeful, believing spirit. And you just kind of seeing who tries to take advantage of it and who doesn't. And you're cutting out the people in your life that have shown you they're kind of more about themselves or these things of the world, or wanting you to indulge them or be a more codependent energy. And what they don't realize is you're going on this new journey. You've dropped the burden. You found it overwhelming. And you closed out that chapter. Not going to be up in your head about it. Not going to feel left out in the cold. You felt left out in the cold and unloved when you're in the relationship with them. So you're inspired within yourself to keep believing in yourself and believing in your dreams and taking action, maintaining balance within yourself, treating other people the way you like to be treated. And they didn't want to do that, and you saw the truth of it. So you didn't let go of your dreams, you just let go of them. And I think as other people see you do that, other people have the free will. Well, I could be more about myself. I could go indulge myself. I could go indulge someone else. Or do I want a more just and fair and balanced relationship? Well, then I got to work through my mental conflict, if I have mental conflict about those things, to see why I have mental conflict with love, or being more authentic, or doing more equal give and take. Why do I think it should be more about me? If I do, I could go get in relationships with people who maybe are imprisoned themselves in some way that would indulge me. Is that the kind of relationship I want to be in? Or do I want to be in a relationship with people who are more just and fair and inspiring and loving and act with character and integrity and more balanced? you know? And just like you're moving forward in that energy, other people have went through similar things that are in that energy, and they're looking for other people who are on that page. So again, you could meet other people who are on that same page, and you could know them already, you could be working with them, whatever, and you're kind of helping each other recover from something that you went through, and finding people who are more on the same page as where you're at now. What's coming up for people who might harness a more shadowy Gemini energy that they might not see coming? The Nine of Swords, which is Gemini energy. Why? Because of the Page of Pentacles. Well, we've all been where we've kind of been stressed about having a new beginning in the Page of Pentacles. And to invest this time, energy, and effort to heal and kind of grow and mature ourselves and work through some of these issues that we have mental conflict about that keeps us out of balance or not loving and believing in ourselves. And they could always be surprised when other people do that work within themselves because they don't. They could have a lot of fear of being more independent, of believing in themselves, of investing in their dreams, stepping outside their comfort zone, getting more balance within themselves versus living more from their mind than their head, mind than their heart. They could be people who really get caught up in their head about things. Why do they really get caught up in their head about things? They'd have to work through all that. And other people did it. And they could always be surprised when other people did it. And they could have more people in their life that are going to call judgment on them. The more shadowy they are, the more they want more codependent relationships, or the more they want people to indulge them, or they want everybody to let them manipulate them or stay in their fear or whatever. Other people work through those things. And that could really get them up in their head. How is it? Because again, Aquarius or Gemini is air sign energy. Aquarius is air sign energy, and Libra is air sign energy. They could be very smart and bright people, and they could think they're brighter and smarter than other people. And if they have things and people in their life that manipulate them, but they kind of don't want to see the truth of it, or they're afraid of becoming more independent of those things or people, they could have thought some other people, oh, they're not as smart as me. There's someone in turn I can manipulate. And I don't think they'll love and believe in themselves enough. I think I can manipulate them. And I think the things that manipulate me, they'll let it manipulate them. And we can just all keep staying manipulated. And then they could be surprised when other people are not as manipulated by these things that manipulate them. And then it could be like, how did those people free themselves? Are they just creating an illusion? They seem to be creating a really good illusion. How do I create an illusion? And that's probably what they're thinking. How do I create an illusion like I'm that type of person? When they're not even really probably the person that they are. Trying to present themselves maybe as a King of Swords and maybe a King of Pentacles, male or female, when they're really just a page. They've got a lot of lessons to learn in life. And that's what other people did. The reason they have more hope and faith and belief in themselves and feel more stable and grounded within themselves, and they keep kind of loving and believing in themselves, is because they do this work within themselves to see the truth of things that manipulate them. But again, for one, you've got to see, I'm kind of immature, or I'm kind of codependent, or I get all up in my head. And they get inspired in their earth sign energy of their Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo to put in work and effort to look at those things that manipulate them so they can free themselves from them, so they don't keep manipulating them. But it takes investing time, energy, and effort. And down here, we have no pentacles. I mean, I don't really know if this is like a King of Pentacles, but Again, their truth could be, isn't that what everyone does? Doesn't everybody just kind of create this illusion in the world that they're more just, fair, stable, grounded, tempered, less egoic, less self-centered person? Isn't that what everybody's doing? It's like, no, some other people really learned those lessons. They actually learned maybe 7 more, because the occupation card reminds me of the 8 of Pentacles. The difference between the 8 and the 1 is the 7, and the 7, like the 6 and the 5, is Taurus energy. In their philosophy of life, and in their fire sign energy, they are inspired to put in work and effort to look at some of the things that manipulate them, and willing to grow and heal and mature themselves, get out of their more egoic nature. Some people just never got out of their more egoic nature. People have told them, maybe things that were immature and they shouldn't do that. Well, they could still think those things are okay. They just don't indulge in them to the degree that they used to. And again, they could think that's what everybody does. Everybody hides that they're really more self-centered, egotistical, immature, blah, 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 because they are. So they think that's what everyone's doing. But other people really learn these lessons over time. They really did kind of put some of those more immature ways behind them. They healed. They called judgment on an old way of viewing life and living life, and called judgment on their more immature nature, their self-centered or egotistical or prideful or being full of themselves, thinking the world should make their life all about them. And these other people haven't. They still think everything should be more about them. And maybe they've had people in their life who indulge them in their more immature, egoic nature. So they're looking for someone else to indulge them in their more immature, egoic nature, or their fearful nature, or their lack mentality nature. But they don't ever get inspired within themselves. And again, it could be looking to someone, just like they look to the world to validate their worth and value, and there's things that they indulge in, maybe some of them, to try to make themselves feel better or look like they're living the dream life, male or female. Some of them are just trapped by their fears and their insecurities, and they look to get in relationships with people to help them look like they're a more stable, grounded, just, fair, balanced person, but they're not. But they keep thinking the answer is maybe to find the right relationship. But it doesn't matter what kind of relationship they get in. If they still have that lack mentality, if they still have all those fears and insecurities, if they're still very more immature and codependent, and they never deal with those issues, they just take those issues into the next relationship, and it affects how the action that they take in the relationship, how they react, how they respond, all these different things. And eventually other people kind of see the truth of it, and they kind of realize these people, it's like being in a relationship with someone, even if it's a coworker or a boss that, is kind of like middle-aged, whatever that, 35 to 55 or older, that you kind of would think has learned some of these lessons in life. But then they get so caught up in their head, they do these really immature things. And again, things that like people maybe did when they were 15 to 18 years old in relationships with people. And other people are like, oh my gosh, this person is really immature. And again, people can have a hard time wanting to see the truth of it, or this person has a lot of fears and insecurities that apparently they don't work through, and they aren't able to look at life from a higher perspective and keep things in perspective, and maybe get really, it's like being enslaved by their mind and their thoughts and their fears. Well, we're not meant to be enslaved in our emotional nature by our mind. We're supposed to learn to work with those things, kind of not let them to manipulate us to that degree. See how it keeps us imprisoned. And, if we need to go get help, we go get help. If we need to read some books, we go read some books. But some people keep maybe too prideful. Well, pride comes before the fall, right? So I think some shadowy people, more high vibe people, will probably move out of their life. And eventually they'll probably be surrounded by more people who are more like them. Some of them, if they're more about ego and image or money or something, there could be someone that they really want to be in a relationship with who has those things, or a loving person. The page can be an immature person, or it can be a hopeful, believing person. They either want a hopeful, believing person to trap in a relationship, or they want someone who has these things of the world, but who might be kind of more immature also, to get in a relationship with. They also might be someone who likes to play that caregiving role in people's life, but more for just, they want them to offer them money in a way to play that role in their life. And they don't want those people to require them to heal or grow. It's like always wanting to someone to stay more codependent on them. And they might get it, but then they might be stressed out, that they're moving forward with someone else who could be more immature, more stubborn, more prideful, gets caught up in their head, is fearful, is insecure, is codependent. But I guess if they didn't have to heal or grow or mature themselves or take accountability for their actions, and with this option, it kind of looks like they have justice in the world, then they might keep moving forward with it, even though, and again, it could be all a strategy to manipulate people for how it benefits them. And always, I think, up in their head and fearful that the people that they're in a relationship will realize they're not who they say they are, and that it is just more about how it benefits them. And then always fearful if they're in a relationship with someone who's like themselves. Everybody's in it more for these reasons other than love. Always afraid that they're always keeping their eye out, just like they are. Is there someone who's got more status and image and money and materialism? Is there someone who has those things of the world that would require less of me? I really don't want to put in work and effort. I like to be more indulged in a relationship. Is there someone else who I think would more indulge me in a relationship? Is there someone, though, who has more of those things of the world? Then I would put more work and effort in with them. I would indulge them. And I think they know the truth of who they are. They're always fearful other people will see the truth of who they are. They're much more transactional. They're much more immature. They're much more just about their own self-interest. And while they're doing that, other people grew up and matured themselves, keep things in perspective, look at life from a higher perspective, keep shedding old layers of themselves to be free to live their more authentic life, more balance within themselves. High vibe Taurus is like being a spiritual leader in the world, living your truth, walking the talk, not indulging your more immature, shadowy nature. And any relationship they may be in, they're always wondering, can I indulge myself in some immature behavior? Do I think I can get away with that? Do I think they would indulge me in that way? Because for some of them, that's the truth. And they hope to transition it to where a loving person will be trapped in a relationship with them and indulge them in their poor behavior. So there you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.